A man, Poon, meets with... no name given, so I'll just call him Gunman, looking for a certain woman. Pretty sure you don't need any guesses as to who it is at this point. This ties into Lupin's latest heist to steal the design documents for a high-end computer chip. He ropes Fujiko into it, though in the process annoys Jigen and Goemon out of it. Gunman and Poon are working on the same heist, and Lupin has a run-in with the former. Except that it's actually Fujiko disguised as Lupin working as a distraction, allowing the real one to steal the documents. She ends up bumping into Poon as she leaves, and while she escapes she's hit by a stray bullet. Jigen tells Lupin what he knows of Poon, namely how he was an assassin who works with a woman up until about 3 years prior, right around when Lupin met Fujiko. Now that one's a story on its own, but all in good time. The gang's doctor requires assistance to remove the bullet from Fujiko, but is knocked out when Poon tracks them down, taking both the documents and Fujiko. Lupin chases them down to a lone house, but Gunman proves too good a shot and neither he nor Jigen can get close. Fujiko's health is worsening, so Lupin fashions a bow and arrow out of some bamboo and sends a radio to Poon, offering to help her. Poon doesn't buy it, so Lupin sends him some surgical tools, offering to talk him through operating on Fujiko to save her. Lupin sends over more arrows, setting his aim off on purpose to draw them out. He manages to hit Gunman with a rock while he's distracted, and darts for the house. He takes Fujiko back, but when Poon tries to shoot Lupin, Fujiko shoots him instead, killing him as he lamented that he just wanted to work with her again after having helped fake her death 3 years ago. Now you might think this is where Lupin and Fujiko realise their feelings and their relationship changes them for the better. Of course, now that the danger is over, you'd be wrong. Jigen is right to laugh at you, Lupin. That said, Lupin and Fujiko's relationship is certainly a complex one. To paraphrase from Castle of Cagliostro, they're enemies, allies, sometimes even lovers. This was a small instance of it, but it certainly suggests that there's something more under their cat and mouse game. Poon, unfortunate name aside, is a pretty decently developed antagonist here, at least in terms of backstory and how he ties to Fujiko. And it's also a rarity to see an episode on Fujiko's past. I mean, we do get a series later, but that's a while off to put it mildly. Lupin and Jigen get their hands on a briefcase of money. It's counterfeit. His real target is a counterfeit that's so good that it even fools the mint. A woman only known as Silver Fox and her partner, the counterfeiter himself, Ivanov. They dump the money and decide to head to the Kowalski Kingdom, where Silver Fox is based. The money's owner, Silver Fox's nephew, Baron Ukraine, gets wind of this, and his henchman Flinch has Fujiko recruited to stop them. Fujiko manages to shoot Lupin's plane down, but they just steal hers instead. Ukraine visits his aunt at her home, a giant clock tower built into a mountain, asking for Ivanov. She refuses, having dropped out of counterfeiting some time ago. Silver Fox also gets a call from Zenigata, who warns her of Lupin's presence. Knowing that it was actually Lupin in disguise, she kindly shows him the door, and warns him not to pursue Ivanov. Back at their hotel room, Fujiko shows Lupin a photo, giving Ivanov's location in a hidden room behind the clock face. Ukraine hasn't given up his pursuit either, but right now he's running blind. Lupin ascends the mountain and decides to make use of the clock hand hitting the 10 to access the room. Inside, he spots Silver Fox leaving from a secret room accessed by one of the gears. The room serves as the print room, to which Lupin admires the artistry of the counterfeits. Ivanov refuses to help, sending Lupin through a series of trapdoors and into Ukraine's path. Everyone is then dumped outside, though Ukraine hangs on while his henchmen chase Lupin. Ukraine makes it to Silver Fox and Ivanov, taking the latter at gunpoint. Silver Fox fires at him with a gun in her opera glasses, but he gets off a shot at her, leaving both of them dead. Lupin manages to take out most of Ukraine's henchmen, but Flinch proves more of a problem. Fujiko intervenes, suggesting they fight on even terms, but moving off to grab Ivanov herself when they do. She arrives just in time to see him blow up the clock tower in despair, and by this point Lupin has stopped caring, more interested in getting one over on Flinch. Now, fans probably saw this just as I did when I first watched it. This seems to have been a prototype for Castle of Cagliostro. It hits quite a few of the plot beats, such as the counterfeit money that ends up being dumped on the public, the clock tower being a major set piece, and even a prominent use of planes, reflecting one of Miyazaki's passions. This also marks the first instance of Lupin disguising as Zenigata, though certainly not the last. It's always fun to guess whether it's Lupin in disguise or not. Zenigata is helping run an investigation on a series of bridge bombings that Lupin is falsely accused of causing. Lupin and Jigen suspect that it's tied to an armoured car that transports a case of bank money using the bridge route, as it's now being bottlenecked. They camp out at one of the still intact bridges and find a bomb hidden in a pillar. Morning comes without incident, but a strange fisherman catches Lupin's interest. They follow a discarded float that's been magnetised and reach a large waterfront mansion. Lupin investigates, but he and Jigen are caught by the bomber. After a failed attack by Jigen, the bomber explains that he plans to steal the car and blame Lupin. To give him leverage, the bomber also reveals that he's taken that isn't Fujiko. He's taken a girl named Lisa hostage, and plans to use a pretty nasty trap if Lupin doesn't cooperate. Oh, and he blows up the bridge with a backup bomb. The remaining bridge leads the car through an abandoned part of the town, with the bomber expecting Lupin to intercept it as he blows up the final bridge, and the car with it. Lupin laughs this off as excessive, so the bomber decides to put it to Lupin. Lupin and Jigen lie in wait, making use of a reverse of the paint a tunnel on the wall gag to send the car off-road and into the river. Knowing they are being set up, Jigen suggests just taking the money, but Lupin decides to try and save Lisa anyway. After a call to Zenigata, the bomber meets Lupin for the exchange, but leaves the dummy behind as he leaves Lupin to Zenigata. Lupin makes use of the pier, which was tied to the boat thanks to Jigen's efforts, to surf behind the bomber and shoot him down. With no one to steer it, the boat crashes ashore, but Lisa is safe, so Lupin makes himself scarce before the police can arrest him. With only 2 briefcases of money being seen, it seems a bit excessive for everything that goes on. A bunch of bridges getting blown up, the bomber clearly having a large expensive mansion. Though maybe it was more about getting one over on Lupin than stealing the money. We don't really get any other reason why the bomber's doing this, or what Lisa's relationship to him is, besides unfortunate victim. Possibly nitpicky there, as it doesn't really detract from the episode, just an observation. On a more positive note, this is also a good example of Lupin's more noble side coming through, in how he'll always go out of his way to save the girl. In the mountain village of Ainu, the criminal known as Hayate has taken the elder captive to steal a pair of statues known as the sister statues. Fujiko makes off with one of them, however, leaving a trail of bodies as she runs. She finds Lupin in a cave and explains the situation to him, though Jigen is also scoping things out. Hayate calls for more men, planning to intercept Lupin when he comes for the second statue. Lupin decides to backstab Fujiko for once and ties her up before heading to the village. He meets with the elder, who is working for Hayate completely of his own free will, and has trouble negotiating a price for the second statue. There's also a blizzard out, so Lupin has to wait there until morning, but Fujiko, who was carried to the village with Lupin, seemingly bolts with the statues at the first chance, causing Lupin to follow. This was all part of Hayate's plan, however, as he rigged Lupin's snowmobile the night before. Lupin's made of pretty tough stuff though. Hayate gets ready to make off with the statues, but is stopped by an aerial strike caused by Lupin as he blows the village to rubble, excluding Fujiko and the Elder's house. Hayate orders his remaining men to scatter, but they don't anticipate the landmines. Lupin and Jigen approach Hayate for the statues, but Hayate decides to employ his organisation's failure policy, taking the statues with him. The statues had a map inside which Fujiko managed to steal earlier, though said map was already swapped out with a fake by the Elder, who makes off with Lupin's payment and the real map, thus answering the question of who got the last laugh. Hayate kind of feels like another case of established villain that we don't know anything about. The only thing we do know is that failure costs you your life with this group. Maybe you could say he's in with the Scorpions or something if you want to apply some kind of headcanon to this. I also personally laughed at the soundtrack dissonance as they used a very jovial sounding third opening theme as the village is being blown to bits and Hayate's men are being annihilated. The Elder's Gambit was also a nice twist, being one of the few people to outwit Lupin and actually get away with it. Next time we'll be covering episodes 13 to 16, starting with Lupin's own take on time travel. Until then,